My name is Josh, and I'm talking to candidates running for positions in the upcoming SU elections. Today I'm here with Laura, who's running for the position of Community and Welfare Officer. We're going to thank you so much, Laura, for joining. The most committed person running for the Community and Welfare position. Yeah, thank you so much for joining.
No worries.
So this is really straightforward. I've got a collection of questions. Some of them are from us, some of them are from students that people have submitted. I'm going to be putting those to Laura, and we're going to find out what your policy platform is and find out a little bit about you as well. But before we do that, we've asked you to prepare a little opening statement in advance. So if you don't mind, we can get going with.
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, my name is Laura Goddard. My time at uni, especially this past year, has been spent trying to make our LSE community a better place. I passed in November a successful motion lobbying the LSE to improve their sexual assault support for survivors. Had 520 votes behind it. Since then I've been working with the SU to see these demands through, and this gives me confidence that I can navigate the SU bureaucracy and deliver on the promises I've made in my manifesto. I've also, with this time, collaborated with a lot of student groups, including Freedom of Mind, Hands Off LSE, the AU, and Women's Interfaith Group. So my manifesto is really centred around three aims: to make our campus more supportive, more active, and more inclusive. And within this, I have some main priorities, which are, number one, to ensure our mental health support services are accessible for everyone and are culturally aware. Number two is lobby LSE to hire a full-time sexual violence advisor, and also to introduce support for male survivors, because currently there isn't any. Third, I want to reinvigorate student activism by giving more support for student campaigns. And finally, we need to better student spaces, both with new buildings and existing student spaces like the ARC. So good luck to all the other candidates, and vote for Laura Goddard from the 23rd of March. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So let's get straight into the questions then. And actually the first question I had is very relevant to a lot of the things that you were just talking about then. So this year has been, I think most people can agree, unusually busy in terms of the movements that we've had pushing for certain changes on campus. You talked about Hands Off LSE, which was actually something I already had a question planned about. Okay. And other similar campaigns, for example, such as the Freedom of Mind campaign. I was going to ask, are you aware of these campaigns? I'm going to say that that's probably true. And to what extent, I guess, obviously, Hands Off LSE will be central to your role, but what about these other campaigns? Do you think that you want to build on this momentum, or do you have other sort of priorities?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think the best kind of change is that which comes from the students themselves, and this is why it's been so amazing to see so many UGM motions like Freedom of Mind. Obviously, mental health, I think we've done an amazing job in the past couple of years in pushing it to the top of our agendas, the SU's agendas, and LSE's sort of like directorate. So it's definitely something that I will be hoping, if I am elected, to prioritise. So I think Freedom of Mind have done an amazing job in sort of collaborating with students on what their top things would be. So part of this is already in my manifesto, and we would already be mandated to work on these UGM points, but definitely some of the most important ones are ensuring that counselling waiting times are no more than 2 weeks, that everyone is offered 6 to 8 counselling sessions, and that we're going to look into sort of splitting academic advisors into sort of a pastoral side and a more academic side, which I think are all amazing initiatives, and I think everyone can get behind these. So definitely something that A, I'm aware of, and B, want to get behind fully.
Sure, thank you. One thing that was very important, especially at the end of last year, was the approach to LSE's approach to consent education, and to what extent that should be compulsory for society members or it should just be optional. What's your stance on this?
Yeah, so I think obviously we can all agree that consent as it stands at the moment definitely needs some improvement. I'm glad to see efforts that it's there, but I definitely think it's something that needs to be compulsory for every single student to take, because we have no idea the level of consent education that someone has before they come to LSE. Everyone comes from a very different cultural background, school experience, so compulsory consent education, I think, is the #1 priority. It's something we talked about, we've been doing lots of meetings with Hands Off LSE, and something we talked about was incorporating it into RAG Week. So this is something that every student will be engaged in some degree, and it's something that we can really push a platform across to. So yeah, that's my stance on that.
Great. And how would you make sure that all of the things that you're talking about not just apply to the whole student population. Not only people from sort of UK backgrounds, for example, but also people from, for example, BME backgrounds, for LGBT people, for disabled people, for other people from marginalized groups. How would you make sure that all of your policies are inclusive to everyone?
Yeah, I mean, this is a massive important thing to consider, and it's making sure that every different kind of experience of voice is heard within these. So I think a big part of that is collaboration, and one of the most positive things I've seen this year is the Women's Interfaith Group, which I came along to and spoke about some of the sexual assault support changes you've tried to see. And what I really gathered from that is that everyone will have a different experience of it based on their cultural or educational background. So I think when we have these sort of spaces where people can talk about their different experiences, we can understand how we can make our policies culturally sensitive and applicable to everyone. So I think for me, definitely a number one priority would be to ensure that we do have these kind of spaces, interfaith, BME, lots of different voices, to make sure that we're not just feeding one kind of narrative and speaking to one kind of person. So yeah.
Sure. So you obviously have a very bold set of policies. What experience then do you have and that you can draw on to make sure that not only do you get support for these, you can also push these through and get the LSE to also adopt them?
Yeah, okay. So I think one of the valuable lessons I learned from putting forward my motion was how to build a strong social media campaign. And I think in this current age, and as we know right now, social media is one of our most powerful tools, I think, to get people on board with campaigns and also to educate people. So I think in terms of a lot of these policies, we're going to need wide LSE support, and I think an amazing way to do that is through upping social media, using LSE SU comms, creating like a really big conversation around these policies, because that's what we really need. And so far I think we've seen some really encouraging signs from large organisations like the AU, lots of society groupings who all are really keen to be involved in this. So I think this is a positive thing to take, in that if we really do try and push for lots of student involvement and combine that with a strong social media push, I think we can really see these policies through with a strong backing to then take the LSE directorate.
Sure, thank you. I mean, I think the importance of social media rings very true now, as everyone is doing this interview and presumably watching it also from their bedrooms.
Yeah.
So yes, very important. Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I think we'll finish there, but just with one, I have one more question for you.
Sure.
If you had to sort of summarize your position and your candidacy in one phrase, and apart from your slogan,
Okay.
What would it be?
Okay. I believe that my experience and my confidence ensures that I can strike that balance between driving forward real change and at the same time respecting collaboration to ensure that every voice is heard. So yeah, that would be
Laura
awesome.
Goddard, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you. Thank you everyone as well for tuning in. Remember that there are a number of videos in this series and you can access all of them on the LSE's and the LSE SU's social media platforms. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.